Wet n Wild made a Spongebob highlighter, so let's turn this one into watercolor paint. This is a full instruction video, so if you have makeup that you would like to turn into watercolor paint, go ahead and save this as a favorite. This works with new or expired powdered products, and every powdered product I've tried with it so far has worked beautifully. Your first step is to carefully remove all of the product from the compact, and I'm using the back of a little spoon and a paintbrush to make sure I get everything out. If you're curious if the product changes when you turn it into watercolor paint, you can make a swatch on the back of your hand showing the original so you can compare it when you're finished. Next, I'm using a palette knife to chop the product up into super fine powder. You don't have to use a palette knife, but it makes it easier. You can also use things like a credit card. Watercolor paint is made with watercolor binder, but you can make different kinds of paint using different kinds of binder, and Google is a great place to start asking questions about different types of paint binders. I do have a watercolor binder recipe pinned to my profile if you'd like to try it. I combine the watercolor binder with the pigment in a 1-to-1 ratio and then mix them up using my palette knife. And then now I'm using a tool called a paint mauler to further incorporate the two ingredients into a nice fine paint. A paint mauler is a glass tool with a perfectly flat bottom, and if you don't have a paint mauler, you can use any glass object fitting that description. You might also be able to use metal or stone or wooden pieces, but I haven't tried them, so I'm not quite sure if they're any good. All I know is that the glass one is the easiest to clean. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it, but I'm also working on a glass surface because it is also very easy to clean. As you are mixing up your paint, make little swatches on paper to see if you like the way that your paint looks, and as soon as you have paint that you love, you're finished. Now, makeup expires, kind of. There are preservatives in makeup that kill bacteria that you introduce into the makeup as you use it. Now, those are the things that expire. The pigment itself does not expire. It's just pigment, and it looks the same no matter how old it is. So when you turn makeup into watercolor, you are just creating watercolor, and it does not expire. Did you know they actually found usable watercolor palettes in the pyramids? Spongebob watercolor paint.